कुंज बिहार जय गोपीजन वल्लभा तिरुवरधार जय गोपीजन वल्लभा तिरुवरधार यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधमाधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा मुरलीधर राधा मुरलीधर राधा जय गौरचंद्रा जय गौरचंद्रा जय गौरचंद्रा जय गौरचंद्रा नित्य गौर हरि भो हरि भो हरि भो नित्य गौर हरि भो नित्य गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि भो। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, The Sum and Bonum, Chapter 87, Prayers of Personified Vedas, Text 31. न घटत उद्भवः प्रकृतिपुरुषयोरजयो रुभययुजा भवन्त्यसुभृतो जलबुद्भुव त्वयि त इमे ततो विविधनामानुगणैः परमे सरित इवार्णवे मधुनि लीयुरशेषरसा. Word to word meaning. Nagatate does not happen Udbhavaha, the generation, Prakriti of material nature, Purushayo, and of the soul who is her enjoyer, Ajayo, who are unborn, Ubhaya of both, Yuja by the combination, Bhavanti come into being, Ashubhruta living bodies, Jala on water, Budbhuta bubbles, what like Twayi in you, Te ime these living beings. Tataha therefore, Vividha various, Nama with names, Gunai and qualities, Parame in supreme, Sarita rivers, Iva as Arnave within the ocean, Madhuni in honey, Lilyu become merged, asesha, all, rasa, flavors. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada disciples ki jai. Translation. Neither material nature nor the soul who tries to enjoy her are ever born. Yet living bodies come into being when these two combine. Just as bubbles form where water meets air, and just as rivers merge into the ocean, or the nectar from many different flowers blends into honey. So as these conditioned beings eventually merge back into you, the Supreme, along with their various names and qualities. Purport. So we'll take just two paragraphs at a time because this is a long purport and there are a lot of important things which we can contemplate. So purport. Without proper spiritual guidance, one may misunderstand the Veda's description of living entities emanating from the Lord to mean that they have come into being in this process and will eventually pass again into non-existence. But if the living entities were thus to have only temporary existence, then when one of them would die, his remaining karma would simply vanish without being used up. And when a soul would be born, he would appear with unaccountable karma. He had done nothing to learn, nothing to earn. Furthermore, a living being's liberation would amount to total eradication of his identity and being. The truth is, however, that soul's essence is one with Brahman's, just as a small portion of space contained within the walls of a clay pot is one in essence with all expanding sky. And like the making and breaking of a pot, the birth of individual soul consists of his being becoming covered by a material body, and his death or liberation consists of destruction of his gross and subtle bodies once for all. Certainly, such birth and death take place only by the mercy of Supreme Lord. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakhaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave. Seeking the blessings of all the devotees, especially Adipurush Prabhu, Arjuna Prabhu. We try to discuss something from today's verse. It's a very basic foundational verse. It touches one of the foundational concepts of the Bhakti Yoga, that and especially the philosophy proposed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, propagated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's Achintya Beda Beda, that's simultaneously one and different. What is simultaneously one and different? We as a living entity, we are simultaneously one with the Supreme Consciousness, the Supreme Lord. So in quality, we are simultaneously one. So we are completely eternal, knowledge, and then bliss. So these are the three things, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So the same qualities which also the Lord possesses, we also possess. But we are different in one sense because we are Anu and we can never compete with the Lord. So our identity is always subservient. So this is elaborated in this particular verse. So we can go step by step. So the first thing is like they're saying that, okay, souls, there are like various things happen, when the body, when there is death, what happens? So that's how it starts. The souls merge back. So now the concept is there are various types of philosophies. One is, okay, there is no God. Okay. And then, yes, there is God, but, so there is no concept of karma. So now why all of a sudden you are bringing karma into picture? So let us analyze. How do we explain, like, people being born with different capabilities? Okay, some people have a photographic memory. Some people have, a very good sense of music skills. And some people are very good at cooking. You can see right from, the childhood itself. In the first 5 years only, some people are like very expert, and some people are not that receptive to some things. So, how can we explain, these things if people don't have a particular backing from the previous life? So this is a very important thing. And then um, also, some people are born into a very, very established, well-to-do families, and some people are born in, a very firefighting place, and then not so developed places, and then, where every day they have to fight for their bread and then things like that. So how these particular concepts are explained? If you say that there is, no God, and then people say that, okay, it's some particular philosophies or some particular thought process. They say that, okay, there exists a God, but there doesn't exist a concept called karma. You know, why they do like this? Why they do like this? Because if you accept a concept of karma, then you have to accept a concept of reincarnation, and which is against some particular thought process. So now the question is, okay, you accept there is a God, a supreme God, and then you say that there is no concept of karma. So now the again, if we analyze the same things what we said, okay, some people are intelligent born and some people are not so intelligent. And some people, different people are born in different families and then things like that, different species. Okay. So now the question is, why God is making do like this? Is God partial to some people and not partial to some people? Or is God not so competent? So this is like a conflicting thing with the beliefs. So that's why accepting philosophy that karma exists makes a sense, because a person is born with a particular baggage, and then accordingly he reaps the fruits of that particular baggage in this particular lifetime, and then whatever he does in this particular lifetime, that carry forward to the next. So, and based on that, his next destination, will start. So that is the concept of karma, which sets into in this particular problem very well. Problem definition, basically. So the concept of karma, that's what the Vedic philosophy, especially the Bhakti Yoga, teaches. So um, many people say that um, religion is faith, you know. So because why they say like this? Because we believe in this particular concept, the karma. So we believe in this. So that's why people say that, oh, you have faith in this particular concept, the karma. Yes, we believe in this, so we have faith in this karma. So we see it working in various lifestyles and then things like that. So that's why people say that, okay, what is your faith? So where basically where lies your faith? Our faith lies in this particular concept or in this particular philosophy. So that so there exists a karma and then reincarnation, and then various people having different baggages. So often that's what people equate to religion is equal to faith, but faith is something like we believe in these particular concepts, and religion comes from religos. So it's a set of rules, that help us practice these particular beliefs properly, and then go deep into those beliefs and understand those beliefs, and then apply those beliefs in every day of our life, so that our um, realization gets much more strong. So that's what people generally get confused between religion and faith. But that is the thing. So now the point is important thing, whether soul is eternal or not. Uh, Here in this particular verse, they discussed about dissolution, partial dissolution. We have Madan Gopal Prabhu here. So please, I feel very much insignificant speaking in front of him because, yeah, he can correct me at the end if I speak anything otherwise. So, um, soul is eternal or not? So that's the question. What happens after death? Okay, some people believe there is God and then soul goes to a higher platform, but ultimately souls merge into the supreme consciousness and we lose our identity. So when we are losing our identity, that means that soul doesn't have an eternal nature. So we merge into some particular thing. So then what happens with the concept of karma? you know so that's a big question. So we have particular karma and then we need to reap that particular karma. And then so we at the particular there are like various types of dissolutions, so which are also taught in this particular purport. So we will come to that in the next verses. um, so sometimes even atheists, so they don't believe in God and everything, but they often say that, okay, see man, you do good, you'll always get good. It's a very simple thing. As you sow, so shall you reap. In this particular life itself, you do good activities, and then it's for the greater good. You'll always get good. But it is simple, like a concept of karma, that whatever actions we do, so accordingly we reap those reactions. They don't explicitly say the concept of karma, but it's very much ingrained, you know, uh, mm, in daily life. So we observe this, right? Um, so we proceed to the next two verses, next two paragraphs. So the combination of material nature and her controller that produces numerous conditioned beings in material creation is likened here to the combination of water and air that produces countless bubbles of foam on the surface of the sea. Just as the efficient cause, air impels the ingredient cause, water to form itself into bubbles, so by his glance the Supreme Purusha inspires Prakriti to transform herself into an array of material elements, and the innumerable material forms manifest from those elements. Prakriti thus serves as the Upadana Karana, or ingredient cause of creation. In the ultimate issue, however, since she is also an expansion of the Supreme Lord, it is the Lord alone who is the ingredient cause as well as the efficient cause. This is stated in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Tasmadeva etasmat atmana akasha sambhuta. From this Supreme Soul, the ether evolved, and so kamyata bhakshyam prajayeya. He desired and let me become many by expanding into progeny. The individual Jiva souls are not created when born from the Supreme Lord and Prakriti, nor they destroyed when they merge back into the Lord, rejoining Him in the pleasure pastimes of His eternal kingdom. And in the same way as the infinitesimal Jivas can appear to undergo birth and death without any factual change, the Supreme Lord can send forth and withdraw His emanations without Himself undergoing any transformation. Thus, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4.5.14 affirms, Avinashi Vare Yam Atma. This Atma is indeed indestructible, a statement that can be applied to both the Supreme Soul and the subordinate Jiva Soul. So here some some things which we can ponder over. Like, so what is birth in essence? So birth can be thought like, the soul being encaged, in a material body. When we say material body, it has got a material covering. Now, Prakriti is supplying all these ingredients for this particular material covering, like earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So, in a sense, material nature is also a cause for this particular birth. It is helping supplying all the ingredients. But so Lord is the root cause, because under His design, material nature is working, right? Uh, a very interesting analogy here is told that the consciousness, you know, so is encaged. You know, so what does it mean by encaged? Like you have a big thing, but you are fitting into a particular small, containment. By nature, soul is full of consciousness. We say that, at least the scientists say that, consciousness gets evolved, so from different species and things like that. But the Vedic principle says that consciousness is already there, you know. So only thing is, because we are engaged, you know, so it is confined. But so when we get liberated, so it gets blossomed like anything. So consciousness is already there. It's not that we have to. Similarly, we in our bhakti philosophy, we always say that Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Suddha Chitte Karena Uday. So what we are saying, the love of the pure love is already in the heart. So only it needs to be awakened. How it can be awakened? By proper association, in a hearing Shravanadi Suddha Chitte with a proper mood. If we hear, so that particular love gets awakened. Okay. So we can see this in some past times, especially related to Bhakti Yoga. Uh, it's not just the human species. This particular Bhakti Yoga can be practiced across all the species. So that is one advantage, and the same benefit can be obtained uh, for souls across all the species. Bhakti Yoga. So, what is Bhakti Yoga? Various components are there in Bhakti Yoga. So, one of the component of Bhakti Yoga is Uchishta Lepanumodito. So, means like you take remnants of great personalities. You take prasad remnants of great personalities. That is also one of the limbs of Bhakti. Um, so, what happened once Sripad Ramanujacharya, he was on his way from Srirangam to Tirupati, so in South India. And then he and his disciples were walking, and then all of a sudden it was a noon time, and then they sat for lunch. So they were having the lunch prasadam. So Ramanujacharya has completed his prasadam, honored his prasadam, and then he went to a pond nearby to wash his hand. And then what happened? Like there were some morsels of prasadam grains left in his hand. So he washed, and then those grains fell in the pond. And then all of a sudden, so in a pond there will be fish, right? So one fish was very eager for the food. So one fish came so eagerly to catch those grains, and then it ate. And then all of a sudden, all the disciples were also about to wash their hands. And then all the disciples were seeing, and then all of a sudden, from that pond, a four-handed, Vishnu form came. And then it offered obeisances to Ramanujacharya, and then it went back home, back to Godhead. I mean, a four-handed form, just as looking exactly like Lord Vishnu. So what happened? The soul, immediately, the soul in the fish body immediately, achieved the perfection, and then it went back home, back to Godhead. So, so, so the thing is, everybody were amazed. The disciples were asking Ramanujacharya, Guru Maharaj, like we were also honoring your, Mahaprasad, remnants many times. But we are still like this. We didn't attend any four-handed form. Why is this? So it said, Ramanujacharya said, the eagerness with which, we approach this particular aspect of bhakti. So to that extent, we get purified, and then we get elevated. Our consciousness gets uncaged. And then, of course, the fish did not commit any mistakes, any aparadh. So it's very pure in that sense. So in essence, what we wanted to say is everybody is pure, in at core. The consciousness is pure. Only thing is it needs to be uncaged. So currently in the birth, so we have this gross cage based on this material elements, five material elements, and the subtle cage. So when this is uncaged, the pure consciousness will come out, and then we get liberated. So we see this. Okay, Ramanujacharya is maybe 1,000 years old. This past time. So what about the latest thing? So in the latest thing also, like we see in Tirupati, when they started this midday meal scheme, so where they were supplying offered prasadam to the schools. So it's a government funded project. They started supplying lunch prasadam. And then after as soon as 8 months, 8 months after they started, so they started a survey. The government started a survey. How effective is this particular food distribution program? And not only the satisfaction, they also asked teachers about the behavioral patterns of the students who are consuming this food. So previously also there was a midday meal scheme, but was done by some NGOs. Later it was given to ISKCON Tirupati. And then the teachers started saying that, so we can observe a lot of behavioral change in the students. So they are becoming more obedient, and somehow they're not whimsical at all, and then they're good at studies, things like that. So just by the simple act of consuming prasadam regularly, so there's a lot of change in the consciousness. I mean, the consciousness basically blossoms, and then we become vested with more divine qualities, and then we'll be appeal to many people. So this is what, so basically birth can be treated as like getting caged, our consciousness getting caged. And then by practice of bhakti yoga, so we revive, we transcend these cages, and then we revive our consciousness. And then some important aspects are narrated, I mean, described here. So we'll see about partial dissolution and full dissolution. Now comes, okay, um, so what next? What happens at the time of death? And then what is the perspective of Bhakti Yoga? So the soul gets merged or what? So let us briefly see what. Yeah. So, the last two paragraphs. As explained by Sridhar Swami, the dissolution of living beings' material condition occurs in two ways, partial and complete. Partial dissolution occurs when the soul experiences dreamless sleep, when he leaves his body, and when all souls re enter the body of Mahavishnu at the time of universal annihilation. These different types of dissolution are like mixing of nectar brought by bees from different kinds of flowers. The different flavors of nectar represent the dormant individual karmic reactions of each living entity, which still exist but cannot easily be distinguished from one another. In contrast, the ultimate dissolution of soul's material condition is his liberation from samsara, which is like flowing of rivers into the ocean. As the waters from different rivers merge together after entering the ocean and become indistinguishable from one another, so the false material designations of the jivas are given up at the time of liberation, and all the liberated jivas once again become equally situated as the servants of the Supreme Lord. And there are a couple of prayers. So here there are two analogies given. So one is the honey collected from various different types of flowers. So they have different flavors. Even though they are accumulated, in one particular pot, the flavors still remain. So this is one type of, dissolution. So where the souls still have the karmic tendencies. You know? So what are the types of dissolution? Like in the night, we sleep. Okay. We sleep means there are not much material activities. So only we sleep. So there's a partial detachment with the body. So we don't move our hands, legs so actively. So we are sort of a little bit detached from the body. At the time of death, what happens? The soul leaves this particular body, so there's a greater amount of detachment. So the material body, it is detached, but it is still tied to its subtle body. The soul is still tied to its subtle body. In sleep, soul is still tied to the material gross body, but in after at the time of death, soul is tied to the subtle body. And then what happens at the time of universal dissolution? All the souls enter into Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu's body. And what happens there? The soul is still tied to its karmic reactions. Okay, I have a lot of baggage, karmic baggage. I still owe that. Okay, I have some desires, you know. So that's why when again the creation happens, the souls get various places, that's called sthana, various places to enjoy their fruits, complete their karmic reactions accordingly. So sarga, visarga, and then sthana. So after secondary creation, there is a place given to each of the souls. So the souls still have the desire, and then, so they try to accordingly enjoy those fruits. But it's little bit ignorance, the desire. They think that, so they are the controller. Uh, but when the soul understands that Lord is the controller and we are the subservients, so that leads to the process of annihilation of these karmic reactions and then complete liberation. So where the soul understands I am the servant of the Lord. So that is the actual liberation. So all these partial annihilations or some things like that, still we have the karmic bondage. So that's what a very nice prayer at the end. We will recite that. I mean, and then we will stop. So this is by Sridhar Swami. He's praying to Narsinghadev. Interestingly. Uh, so यस्मिन् उद्यद्विलयमपि यद्भाति विश्वं लयादौ जीवोपेतं गुरुकरुणया केवलात्मावबोधे अत्यन्तान्तं व्रजति सहसा सिन्धुवत् सिन्धुमध्ये मध्ये चित्तं त्रिभुवनगुरुं भावयेतं नृसिंहम्. So Sridhar Swami is an acharya in our parampara. So let's see what he's saying. The Supreme Lord is self-effulgently omniscient. By his great mercy, this universe, which is subject to repeated creation and destruction, so we talked about the pralaya, remains present within him after merging back into him along with the living entities at the time of cosmic dissolution. So the living entities, the universe, all the ingredients for the universe, pradhana, everything is there intact. They don't get into non-existence. This total withdrawal of the universal manifestation occurs suddenly, like flowing of a river into the ocean. Within the core of my heart, I meditate upon that master of the three worlds, Lord Narsimha. So this is a very important part of the philosophy of Bhakti Yoga, that the identity of the material nature is real, and it's eternal. It may change shape, but it exists. And then we as a soul also always exist. And then till the time we have desires, we will be in the material world. And then once we are in our true identity, once we know our true identity, we are considered liberated. So we will be in the spiritual world. So just to summarize, today we discussed about the concept of soul, whether it's eternal or not. And then from the philosophy of karma, so we defended how soul is eternal, and then karma plays a role, or else how we can explain, so various things happening, how people are having different levels of consciousness at the time of birth. I mean, different skill set, and then different parentage, and then things like that. uh, and then we also saw that what it means by birth and death, so engagement of the consciousness in a particular type of body, how material nature is supporting this particular process. uh, and then yeah, finally we saw some prayers by Sridhar Swami, and we saw some pastimes, how people get elevated, how Bhakti Yoga is very simple. It can be practiced by various different species. Everybody can be benefited by Bhakti Yoga. So thank you so much for your patient hearing. Any comments or corrections?
Wonderful, Krishna Daya Prabhu. Thank you very much. So we can be either engaged in service or engaged in unwanted habits, or we can be engaged while encaged. Yeah? Cool. Okay, we have senior Vaishnavas today. Adipusha Prabhu, Madam Gopal Prabhu. Would you like to speak, Prabhus?
Madam Gopal speak first. Madam Gopal?
Akashvani.
Yeah.
You have multiple phones open or something. Thank you so much, Krishna Daya Prabhu. Really wonderful elucidation. You really gave some nice examples, and I very much appreciated the anecdote of the fish eating the Mahaprasad, that the eagerness that we show, not just show, but that we feel, that it gets generated out of sincerity, can propel us and can skip so many hurdles. What are the hurdles in the path of that fish? Well, the fish still had probably a few million species to go through before it became a human. And then even in human, then you keep recycling until you actually come into contact with a devotee. But now it's bypassed all that just by getting a few crumbs of grain from the hands of a pure devotee. But the eagerness by which the fish swam toward that, even though it was somewhat selfish, but it just happened to be the mercy of the devotee, and of course, the offenselessness in that particular angle. So sometimes we see devotees who come from simpler backgrounds, not too complicated, they tend to make fewer offenses than those of us who are constantly trying to evaluate, does that devotee deserve my respect? Whereas if we come from a background where we give respect by default and we eagerly run to serve, it's so much more ahead than someone who has 5 PhDs and is constantly questioning whether this particular I should bow down or not, because that ego comes in our way. So that fish is a beautiful example of that. Thank you for sharing. It's lovely.
Thank you so much, bro. Yeah, we are lucky, Bhakti Yoga, and then especially, yeah, that's a real challenge. Like the more time we spend in Bhakti Yoga, so there's a chance that we do offenses. So uh, yeah, that's a trade-off. Somehow we feel, oh, we could be in those initial days where we respect everybody. We don't have any judgment. But yeah, thank you for pointing.
Thank you. Temple room.
Hare Krishna, can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we also, following the footsteps of Madam Gopal Prabhu, responded to the parts of the class about prasadam. the fish was uplifted by taking some prasadam. And then he spoke about the children and how the devotees are distributing Krishna's prasadam, Krishna's mercy, and how their behavior, Prabhupada said, prasadam purifies your existence. So there's like elevation and a purification by honoring Krishna's prasadam. Krishna is so merciful. And then we're hearing this whole narration about the situation that the souls are in, taking birth. And I was speaking with Bhima this morning about an experience Krishna gave us. We were walking along the road, and there was a house with a porch, and there was an elderly gentleman sitting on the porch. And my body is, what Prabhupada said, dwindling at the fag end of life, you know. My body is 77 years old right now. But this gentleman the body was much older. And I could just see from the look on his face, Krishna says the face is the index of the mind, that he was kind of chanting to himself, I'm toast. This is it. I'm finished. There's no hope. You know, he would just look depressed and overwhelmed by the advancement of age. And we were reading last night about how the king of the Yavanas engaged Kalakanya, Jara, old age, and by her service is to help us to become a little bit aware death is coming. I should really, you know, do something about this. So I looked at this man and I said, he was a Chinese man. I said, I was asking, do you speak English? Putong, what putong? I don't understand. So I thought, well, I'll just speak to him in English because the truth is there. And I said to him, there's an old poem, life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not the goal. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, was not spoken of the soul. You know, I tried to bring up that point to him just by the attitude of my speaking to him joyfully. I said, don't worry, we're not this body. We're the soul, and there's something, paras tasmatu bhavanyo, there's another dimension of existence. I'm talking to this man in English, and he speaks Chinese, but he was looking at me, his eyes popped out, you know, and I was speaking kind of joyfully and encouraging. I said, and actually, I was thinking, we'll just get the holy name in here. Actually, just by chanting Hare Krishna, we are, that's Krishna coming. And I said, Hare Krishna. And he looked at me and he raised his hands, not very high, but he did raise that he heard the holy name. And something dropped the pall of depression and, you know, sadness dropped away from him. And when I said, Hare Krishna, somehow or other, so we're meant to understand our situation and to share this with others by some means or another, by the holy name and by prasadam, so that people will benefit and have some hope and faith that they're not just going to die and that's the end. Anyway, Radha Muralidhar being here. So
I
Manohar is going
think I think Prabhu engaged an engaged person.
to be here, the cure.
Namah Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Namah Bhajami Govindam
Adi Purusha Tamaham Vajami Anandachimaya sadhu
Jai Shri Radha Muralidhar Gaurachandra Bhagavan Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotional service. By His grace, across the ocean of grace, and obtain the resolution of my only wishes have by the word of day from His lotus mouth. Christ advocate for those feet is perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my heart and fills my heart with triumphs and nothing other. He is my Lord of birth without birth. From Him ecstatic strength and by Him in ignorance is Lord. Made in scripture and in character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord of master. Oh, Master, be merciful on us. Give us today the lotus feet. May your faith be spread all over the free will. We can tell that we can finish. Dear Father,
Jai Shila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Shirana Muralidhar Shigari Chandra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Afterglow. Is Krsna Daya Prabhu still here? He's so serene. He should be a tour guide to the annihilation of the universe. Okay, dear devotees, please proceed calmly into the body of Mahavishnu. Don't worry about your karma. You'll be carefully preserved. Please, don't rush. Don't panic. Krishna Daya Prabhu is wonderful. Okay, would anyone like to speak? I see Mathuranath Prabhu is raising his hand.
Haribo, yeah, question for Madan Gopal. Am I right to understand that simplifying our life, simplifying our expectations of maybe achieving materialistic things, maybe simplifying our relationships can facilitate more, won't be the cause, but if there's a desire for eagerness for Krishna, it can, that simplicity can facilitate that.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Thank you, Mathuranath Prabhu, for asking a great question. Yes, the short answer, of course. Simplifying life does, in fact, increase the eagerness for bhakti, for sure. One, because material complexity leads to a lot of mental noise. So the more we chase material goals, whether it's possessions, prestige, status, control over outcomes, even control in relationships and so on, the more our consciousness is divided. And so our mental bandwidth gets consumed a lot of the times by scenarios that are not even going to happen. What if scenarios, anxieties, future projections. So this scattered mind has very little space left for relishing the holy name. And if we don't get enough taste, then the momentum of that taste, which is really called eagerness, is much diminished, right? So there's that aspect to it. It also clears the heart. Eagerness or enthusiasm can be also similar or equated. See, Utsaha Nishcha Dhairya from Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Devotion. These qualities, enthusiasm, confidence, and patience, they thrive when we are not overburdened by external ambitions. So a simpler life leads to less agitation, more reflection, and a greater spiritual hunger, which again is eagerness. And then when we decide to voluntarily accept less from the world, like lower expectations from the world, we begin to expect more from the world of Krishna. And so that creates a longing. See, that longing, which is what a sense of dependency that, my Lord, I have no one else but you. That awakens fire of eagerness like nothing else can. This is why renunciation is not about denying ourselves pleasure, but about choosing real taste over the temporary distractions. And then, of course, simplified relationships means less drama. Less drama means more dharma. A real dharma of the soul. Fewer entanglements, clearer boundaries in relationships, less emotional turbulence. Especially when we try to avoid being the controller or the savior in every relationship, then we can better serve with a sense of detachment and love. Frees up energy for deeper sadhana. So, of course, Prabhupada himself, even when he was here in New York, he lived very simply, with no possessions, but total focus. That utter simplicity was always a fire for the raging fire of eagerness. You can see, and people who came in contact with him sensed that eagerness, that fire. And those who were fortunate were pulled into that warmth. So certainly simplicity does lead to clear path to an increased eagerness. So you have articulated it quite succinctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. One quick follow-up. So are you saying, like in relationships, especially between grihasta couples, so there's a lot of philosophies out there to how to go deeper into loving relationships in this material world between people who are married or boyfriend, girlfriend, how to, increase that those feelings, that bhav, that getting along. Would you say that is helpful in our Krishna consciousness, or it's more helpful that we structure our life together around devotional service and getting along, so that we increase our emotions eventually arise for Krishna instead of so much trying to arise for each other?
Yes, it's a good question. It's a classic question of what does love mean in marriage or the kind of relationship like that, especially in context of when both are trying to advance spiritually. But I think it was Khalil Gibran or maybe Rumi, maybe one of the wise sayings. It says love does not mean staring into each other's eyes. It means both of you are looking toward a common goal. You're facing the same direction and walking together. And this way you actually get deeper in love with each other because the common goal is Krishna. Because as you come closer to Krishna, you come closer. Imagine you're like standing 10 feet apart, and then the goal is one point in the distance. And then you start walking toward that goal. As you make progress toward that goal, it's now 9 feet, 8 feet. You actually get much closer to each other as you come closer to Krishna. That's how relationships around spiritual life work. So the affection actually gets deeper for each other, but it's a byproduct of trying to serve each other and helping each other come closer to Krishna. It's almost counterintuitive. You don't have to work on it separate. You do have to work on it separate in the sense that you have to recognize that the affection that we have for each other is very natural, and one should not deny it. If you read the purport in the 13th chapter, there's a section of verses from verses 8 through 12. And one of them, there's items of knowledge. And Prabhupada, Krishna calls one of the items of knowledge, detachment from wife, children, family, etc. is an item of knowledge. So then one may think, detachment means, does that mean I should be gradually less affectionate, gradually less mentally connected, gradually less heart feeling toward them? And Prabhupada in the purport writes something very interesting. If you read it, he says, as for detachment from wife, children, family, etc., it does not mean that one should have no affection for these. These are natural objects of affection. These are Prabhupada's words. And these words were spoken during my wedding by the devotee who performed my wedding, His Grace Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. He pulled it out. He says, you're getting married now, Madan Gopal and Mansi Ganga, and I want you to understand what Prabhupada teaches about detachment. And he's teaching about detachment at the wedding day itself, in the middle of the mantras. So he's saying the natural object of affection, deepen your affection with Krishna in the center. You see, so when you cultivate a shared sadhana, the deepest marital intimacy comes from that, when you chant together, read Shastra together, doing kirtan or seva together. These are not just nice activities like playing tennis or something. They're powerful ways to merge the hearts on the soul platform. See, so in that same purport, if you keep reading it, Prabhupada gives 4 things that will make your family life very happy. He says, chanting Hare Krishna, reading scriptures together, offering food, and then, of course, coming together as a family, morning and evening, to serve the deity. You serve the deity, you take prasadam, of course, you have to offer it. So if you do those 4 things, family life will be very happy, and you'll actually end up becoming stronger together. And it'll be an inseparable, vibrant bond that then people will come and ask you, how do you do it? And then you can say, hey, read that purport. And this is how it works for us. I hope that helps. Mathura Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. It's so nice to hear from Madan Gopal Prabhu, who is a realized Grihastha. He can speak from realization with conviction. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. Would anyone else like to speak? Krishna Mobile?
Hare Krishna.
We can hear you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Well, you can't improve on what Madan Gopal answered. I'd just like to comment that just by hearing Madan Gopal presenting Krishna consciousness, Mathura, as he mentioned the other day, I want to have this person's association as a mentor. He's attracted. So that's happening in the dynamic of the interactive, afterglow form of the format of the class. That people are hearing from each other and relationships are developing and we're nourishing each other by sharing what we've heard from Srila Prabhupada. So I'm glad to see that happening.
Thank you.
Mathura Prabhu is asking about well, can you simplify your material life, right? Will that help? Of course, embedded in the question is a perfect answer. You can see that. What does the Bible say? You can't serve two masters. You're either going to dedicate yourself to one and neglect the other, or vice versa. And you may be going in the wrong direction, so you can simplify it and go slower in that direction. But sooner or later, if we don't change direction and say the focus of my life is devotional service, the focus of our relationship is devotional service, then we're not quite exactly progressing. We're just going in the wrong direction slower. So not just simplifying it, but reverse. You know, you can't go two directions at the same time. Oh, glory to Prabhupada. I'm talking too much. Oh, glory to Prabhupada.
Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to the devotees assembled to glorify Krishna every morning. Karen, where are our reciters of the Maha Mantra? Annabelle and Isaiah. Karen? Okay.
There he is.
Thank you, Isaiah. That was perfect. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. I'm
Bye
going to
bye.
camp.
Annabelle, nice seeing you. Hare Krishna. Are you guys wrestling or what?
I'm going to camp.
Oh, you're in a camp. Okay, okay. Okay, I thought it was a pillow fight. All right, Hare Krishna.
Bye.
Hare Krishna.